Welcome to the Gay Buddhist Forum, where teachers from all schools of Buddhism offer their perspectives on the Dharma and its application in modern times, especially for LGBTQI audiences. These talks are offered freely to the world and made possible by appreciative listeners. If you would like to support our efforts to share the Dharma with underserved audiences, please visit gaybuddhist.org. There you can donate, find a list of upcoming speakers, or enjoy many hundreds of these recorded talks dating back to 1996.
I'm looking here, it looks like a lot of people graduated to chairs. I'm really glad you're taking care of yourself, you know? I don't know what my excuse is. I just know that having a body, what is needed in any given cycle of life is different than the last one, and different than the next one.
We're not called the Gray Buddhist Fellowship.
Are you all called the Gray Buddhist Fellowship?
In hushed
I was mistaken. I must have misspelled it. Oh, so it's really good to see you all again. I'm assuming some of you that I'm meeting for the first time, but...
Heather, we're going to... Can you read your bio?
Oh, read my bio. Yeah. Go ahead. Do whatever you're supposed to
We'll do that. So welcome everybody to the Gay Buddhist Fellowship. Our speaker today is... let's go around and introduce ourselves. We'll do ourselves first, and then I'll introduce Heather.
Lots of speakers today.
My name's Tom.
My name is Rich.
Benjamin. Michael.
My name is Cass.
I'm Jim.
I'm Lee.
Gary. My name is Michael.
Stuart.
My name is Dennis.
Kevin.
George.
Jack.
Tony.
Vince.
Matthew. Larry.
I'm Clint.
My name is Stephen.
My name is Jerry. Jeff.
I'm Bob.
Harley.
Don.
Jay.
I'm Tim.
Peter. I'm Hal. I'm Mark.
My name is Mark. I'm Zeb. I'm Brad.
And I'm Harvey.
Welcome everyone. So we're pleased to have back with us today our good friend.
Who forgot how this whole thing went because she hasn't been here on a Sunday morning in a year and a half. My apologies.
Heather Sundberg. Heather began teaching meditation in 1999. That's why she's sitting in the chair now.
Definitely.
She has completed the 4-year Spirit Rock Insight Meditation Society teacher training and beginning her own meditation practice in her late teens. For 20 years plus, Heather has studied with senior teachers in the Insight meditation and Tibetan traditions and has sat 1 to 3 months retreat per year for the last 15 or more years. She's a teacher for Mountain Stream Meditation Center in the Sierra Foothills and also teaches classes, day-longs, and retreats nationally, including our last year's day retreat here for us.
That was such an honor. How many of you were there for our first day-long retreat, SFA Sangha? I'm so glad. That was such an honor. I still look back on that fondly. Anyway, I'm interrupting. What else is on there?
And what else is on there? Especially Spirit Rock, which we know. And she can be found at heathersundberg.com.
I have an update on that, actually, that people seem to be excited about. Sometimes I'm excited, sometimes I'm aware of what I just took on. But I also the Spirit Rock Meditation Center Teachers Council just did a huge expansion after almost a decade of kind of no one in, no one out. So I am now a member of that council, which means that I'm a member of the team that is going to move the process from the founding generation of teachers to the next generation of teachers. So I'm excited, but I also get what we're taking on. Yeah. So is this on? Do I need to turn this on?
It's on.
It's on, okay. They heard all that. All the jokes. Hi, guys. Hi. I'm sending it to the recorder. I actually talk to recording devices. I'm a little odd that way.
Let us know if it starts talking back.
I will let you know if it starts talking back. So it is quite wonderful to be back. You probably got from the introduction that I don't live around here anymore. I grew up in the Bay Area, but I've lived up in Nevada City for the last decade. So SF Gay Song has been really kind over the last 10 years to make a point to reach out to me early and say, hey, when you're teaching a retreat at Spirit Rock and it doesn't end on a Sunday morning, can you let us know so that you can come visit? And so I just finished teaching a retreat at Spirit Rock Meditation Center, and I'm really happy to be back. Yeah. And it was funny because I had my seat cushion from the retreat, and then on top of that seat cushion were the flyers from the retreat, and on top of that was my last Dharma talk from the retreat, and I was trying to find what I wanted to share with you this morning. This big pile of paper. I finally found it. It's right here. We'll see what actually comes through. So a couple opening quotes here. The first one's actually from Mahatma Gandhi. The purpose of life is undoubtedly to know oneself. But we cannot do it unless we learn to identify ourselves with all that lives. The sum total of that life is God. I'm holding that word in the spirit of the many names of God, of that which is bigger than us. Yeah. I noticed on this same piece of paper there's a wonderful quote that I haven't read from Alan Watts. It's interesting. People hand me things and they sort of go into this huge quote folder. It's about this big now. Alan Watts, you didn't come into this world. You came out of it like a wave from the ocean. You're not a stranger here. That's one of the things I love about coming to this community, is even though I don't come often, and even though I actually don't meet all the criteria for being here, I've never felt like a stranger. You all have always welcomed me with open arms, and it's a privilege to be a part of, even though this isn't physically a circle, I do think of it as a circle. If we had a different configuration room, I think it would be more circular. So thank you for welcoming me back in. So a few reflections here. I was staying with a friend last night, and they said to me, so what are you going to talk about tomorrow? And I said, well, I'm going to talk about United in Sports. And they said, what? I'm a long-time Dharma practitioner. I said, well, it might work. But here's the thing. I was thinking about this story that happened to me a couple months ago. That's where the idea of United in Sports came from. Which was I was down here in the Bay Area teaching my annual Women's Weekend, which I've been doing for, a decade or more. And so I was house sitting afterwards at a friend's house, and the Olympics was on. And they had cable TV. Now, I stopped watching cable TV over 2 decades ago. So this was very exciting for me. But not only are the Olympics on, and I do love watching the Olympics, but I haven't watched them much in years other than a snippet here and there on the internet. I thought, oh my gosh, cable TV, nobody's here, this is going to be great. What do Dharma teachers do for fun? They turn on cable TV. Oh dear. Anyway, so I turned it on, Winter Olympics, and I turned it on just in time to see Shaun White win the gold medal in the half pike. I mean, did any of you guys watch the Olympics this year?
Yeah.
Some of you? You've watched it other years? Anyway, this is not a plug for the Olympics. This is just the story of the hour. So I love half pike. I live up in a skiing area. I don't ski. Everyone I know and love does. So we all get very excited about this. It's interesting how you don't have to do something yourself to get excited about it when people you love and enough people are into it. It's grown into me over this last decade. I've literally never put on a pair of skis. I'm surprised I haven't gotten kicked out of the area, but so far so good. And so I got to watch that, and then the commercials kept coming on. So I was watching, this race, that race, this thing, and just constant commercials. And I literally have not seen commercials in 2 decades at this level of commercials. So what was interesting about that from a practice perspective was, firstly, how overwhelming it was at first. And then, secondly, how compelling it was. Because I don't have that veil of the system going, I'm used to it. So it went right in. The way that happens when we take a media freeze for a while because maybe we need it, and then we turn it back on, and it has a different kind of influence, has a different kind of impact. And so I'm watching these commercials, I'm just like, wow. I always think to myself when I'm watching commercials, Heather, billions of dollars were spent to get you obsessed with this 30-second storyline. Don't take it personally if you just got sucked in. Billions of dollars. And of course, there were some commercials that were for, medications that people I know and love really need, and there was some good information there. So it's never all good or bad or this or that. But it was a lot. And so before, I would try to turn the TV off during the commercials, but then I would miss the first 2 minutes of the next event because I didn't know how long the commercials. So long story short, before I remembered that every remote control has a mute button, I saw this one commercial for the Olympics many, many times. And it was one of those inspiring pieces to get people kind of energized and connected with the global community of athletes and, the incredible potential of humanity. So it was, that piece for the Olympics. And the punchline for the piece on the Olympics this year, one of them was United in Sports. So I started thinking about that as the next commercials were going on, and I wasn't quite sure what to think. And this is actually a very core practice that I dance in every day of my life. And it presented itself through these images and noises on the screen and this United in Sports, because what I thought to myself was, the first thing I thought was, oh, that's lovely. The world is united in sports. And then the next thought I had was, this is depressing. This is the only thing we can come up with that we're united in this world? And I realized they're both true. Neither one of them are true. Because, of course, there was incredible tensions in this Olympics and every Olympics that ever happens politically. So I started reflecting on this, and I realized, okay, it's not about figuring it out. Now, that's actually, when I think about it, a key line in this story. If you take away one line from the story, maybe it's not always about figuring it out. Just whatever it is that you chew on endlessly. We've all got stuff that we think, well, if I can just figure it out, then I'll be okay. And the answer is yes, and the answer is there's more, I think. So figuring it out is one skill, but if that's the only skill that we have and it's the only skill we go to, it's pretty limited, right? So that, okay, it's not always about figuring it out. So I sat with it. And the way that I sit with things like this, and there's so many different polarizations in this world, and polarizations in our hearts, where it's like, how do I hold this in wholeness? And that's how I think about it. How do I hold it in wholeness? And so I just sat there in the wholeness of the inspiration, of the unitedness and the connectedness and the inspiration itself, and the grief. That, it's not united the way it's being presented, and it's not united in so many different ways. And that one wasn't more important than the other, one wasn't more real or relevant than the other. It was all there in the wholeness. And so at that point, I stopped using mute. And I thought, every time that thing comes on, I'm going to practice. And I did. All the way through the next days of the Olympics. It would come on, United in Sports, and I would sit in wholeness and go, okay, this is life on life's terms. This is the world on the world's terms. And I want to feel the joy, the inspiration, the sense that I am contributing to this and cheering it on, and I want to feel the grief and the discrepancy and the inauthenticity. Is this tracking for you guys? Yeah, some of you. So, of course, there were a lot of wonderful things that came out of the Olympics this year. I'm sure I'm not the only one that one of the real inspirations was Adam Rippon, right? Who got the bronze medal in singles figure skating and was the first openly gay male to do so. American figure skater. Then we had Eric, I forget Eric's last name, from Canada, who won the gold. You know, I mean, there were some really inspiring things that happened. And so I found this quote that, to me, speaks to this, because we have this thing about there's polarization, and there's a lot of pain in that, worldwide, with every issue we can think of. And then there's the steps that they just feel like such leaps. So what this is from, I found this article, it must have been a year and a half ago, because the article title was, I think it was in Huffington Post, if the year 2017 had a title, so 2017 : title. Oh, some of you are nodding, you saw this. What would the title be? And there were poets of all nationalities from all over the world and all over this country that responded, and this was one of my favorites. It's from Safia Aliho, who is a Sudanese-American writer, educator, lives in Washington, D.C., and her debut collection of poetry is called The January Children. So she said, 2017, when water reaches a boiling point, its state will change. When water reaches a boiling point, its state will change, and it does. And we see that over and over. I've been using this as a reminder to myself when the world just seems like it's on fire, and it's not just recently, right? It's our whole lives and generations on fire. Oh, and when things boil hard enough, its state changes. I know that in my own heart. I know I'm not the only one here who has burned in this life and burned on the spiritual path. You know? We've all got our own stories of it. We've all got the stuff we came in with and the stuff we grew up with and the cultural pieces, but a lot of us here have burned. I really respect that deeply. No. Because I'll just speak for myself. It's not like I like burning. It's not like every single time there's another kind of burning through some sort of conditioning, something that's stuck, that I go, hooray! Been waiting for this my whole life. And yet at the same time, I have been waiting for this my whole life because I'm ready to release. It's like we can wake up in the morning and say, yeah, it's not always easy, and whatever is available to release, I'm ready to release today. You know, the 12-step tradition, it's like, okay, one day at a time, just for today. So I love that, to think about it personally, the way that we work through things psychologically, spiritually, interpersonally, our relationships in this world. And sometimes it burns really hard and it just feels like it's never going to end, and it's horrible, right? And then there is the potential for transformation. And it's probably why some of us are here versus at the festival down the street. I noticed there were several festivals down in this area today. I thought, I wonder how the traffic will be. That's okay. It looked like they were going on all day. You can go afterwards. Anyway. So I wanted to bring in a teaching from the Buddha, a sutta, about a small group of monks who were called Anuruddha. And it's interesting, they were, at a certain point in their journey together in community, their spiritual journey in community, they all started being called by the same name, which is Anuruddha. That's fascinating to me metaphorically, because I think that we have our people and our places where even though we may be different, that there's something about but we're all the same name. metaphorically speaking. Some of you probably feel that here. So here's how this story goes. On one occasion, the Venerable Anuruddha was going to visit the Buddha, and the Buddha was busy. The Buddha was busy in meditation. This is not an uncommon scenario. Somebody goes to visit him, but he is doing his meditation period, which may last all afternoon. And so Anuruddha waited. And when it was evening, the Buddha rose from meditation, went to a wood, and somebody who was basically a gatekeeper to that wood said, "Oh no, don't go in there. There are these venerable ones, these practitioners who are deeply committed to their own freedom, and they're taking their meditation now. Don't go bother them." Can you imagine? The Buddha comes knocking on the door and somebody comes in and goes, no, they're busy. So fortunately, one of the Anuruddhas heard all of this and said, no, please, invite the Buddha in. Can you imagine? I missed the Buddha because I was busy. I mean, that's really interesting, actually. How many times have we missed our own potential to wake up, like a little bit or a lot, because we're too busy? I don't know. So he said, "This is our teacher. Please invite him in." And so the Buddha went in. They took care of him the way that you would an honored guest, the way that you do for me and the other teachers when we come in. You know, it's like, it's not just me that loves coming here. I talked to some of my colleagues. You know, we all love you guys. I heard Pam was here last week. Yeah, so great. So basically the Buddha said, Anuruddhas, I hope that you're keeping well. I hope that you're all comfortable. I hope that you're not having any trouble getting alms food. So basically, you know, I hope that all is well. I hope that you have your basic needs taken care of. This is what we do when we're friendly with somebody. We check in. Are you well in body? Are you well in heart? And do you have enough to eat? We check in. And they said, yeah, we're keeping well. We are comfortable. We're not having any trouble getting alms food. And then the Buddha said, I hope, Anuruddha, that you're living in concord with mutual appreciation, without disputing, blending like milk and water, and viewing each other with kindly eyes. Okay, I'm going to say it again, because that's a lot there. Yes, we are living in concord. We're living with mutual appreciation. We're living without disputing, blending like milk and water, viewing each other with kindly eyes. So then the Buddha asks an excellent question. And he says, Anuruddhas, how are you pulling that off? So yes, I just did a huge translation from the Pali to the English. Anuruddhas, how do you live thus? But how are you pulling that off? Easier said than done, right? So this is what they said. What I think to myself is, it's a great gain for me that I'm living with such friends on the spiritual path. Again, where we bring our attitude of mind, everybody that we know, everybody that we care about and love, they're those annoying things. And since we all judge, and until we're fully awakened, judgments will happen, they're inevitable, right? So if we shift the attitude of mind to say, yeah, even given that that's so, in wholeness, I'm going to look at this one or look at this small group or this community with appreciation and say, this is a great gain for me, that I have these ones in my life. And then in parentheses, even though, ... all of our quibbles, right? Even though. And then the Anuruddhas continue, I maintain physical acts of loving kindness. I maintain verbal acts, words of loving kindness. And I maintain thoughts of loving kindness. And here's the interesting part. It says both openly and privately. So when others will see, when only they will see, the internal, the external, both. It's always interesting. Do you ever track in your own practice, like when you're at work or in community or something, just that little extra that happens of, yeah, my intentions are really good and the way that it's looking is really good, but I've got a little bit more, the boss, the colleague, the person I'm interested with is going to see. Is that a little bit extra? That's okay. we can hold that in wholeness. We can go, yeah, it still counts, and there's a little bit extra, right? So, and then there was a consideration the Anaruddhas had that said, there are times when I can set aside what I wish to do and go along with others' plans. That, if you take that practice for a day or a week, now, it's not all the time, because if it's all the time, then we're not listening to our own needs. It's listening and realizing I can compromise here. I can listen here. I can step outside my own box here. That's an incredible practice to take on for a week and see how many times we can manifest it and have compassion for all the times we can't, right? So here's the punchline of this sutta. It's my favorite line. So after all this appreciation, all this loving kindness, all this thinking bigger than just me all the time, the punchline is, they said to the Buddha, we are different in body, but one in mind. We're different in body, but one in mind. To me, that's holding things in wholeness. That there's some thread that runs through us that we share in common, and it doesn't discount our diversity. They're both held in the same mind and heart and awareness. So that's why this practice, to me, of holding things in wholeness is so important. And sometimes I practice it personally, sometimes I practice it interpersonally, and other times it's with large communities or systems. Trying to continue to decrease our own reactivity so that we have more to actually be able to see and care and respond. That's what I'm interested in. It's such a process, huh? Just like, oh, okay, there it spikes again. All right, well, I've still got 2 feet. I can feel them. I can take a breath and go, all right, there's enough air to breathe with all this reactivity. Okay. So I call this working from the root. The root is the nervous system. Even in meditation, there's a lot of top-down instructions. Not saying that there's anything wrong with them, but working a lot with thoughts and emotions and, kind of the mental constructs, this little top-down approach. Sometimes we have a lot of thoughts and a lot of emotions because the root got triggered, and the root is deep in our nervous system. That's an ancient creature, right? So it's simple stuff like, all right, I can ground, I can take a breath, and remember there's enough air to breathe, and it starts to drop the reactivity. Then I can be like, yeah, and there's that story I'm telling about this situation that spiked me. I can pay some attention. I can label it as a process like worrying or irritation or whatever. It starts to come down a little more. Oh, now I can bring in some of that loving kindness or appreciation that I can even do any of this stuff. It starts to come down a little more. That's that mindful pause. Sometimes that process is less than a minute. And you know what I really love? I hope you do too. Nobody knows we're doing it. Stealth Dharma. Nobody knows. Nobody's like, what are they doing? You're just sitting there in some situation. Good stuff. So one of the things that I take heart in is one of the prophecies, one of the possibilities for our future as a human race, right? And one of the most vocal teachers of this vision is Thich Nhat Hanh. And so a lot of us have heard the headline of this vision, but I wanted to actually share a little bit longer description of what this is. It's the teaching that the next Buddha might be the community, but to really share from his words. So Thich Nhat Hanh says, the Buddha Shakyamuni, our teacher, predicted that the next Buddha would be Maitreya, the Buddha of love. It is possible that the next Buddha will not take the form of an individual. The next Buddha may take the form of a community practicing understanding and loving kindness, a community practicing mindful living. And the practice can be carried out as a group, as a city, as a nation. when water reaches a boiling point, its state will change. So there is a part of me, when I'm not afraid, that just says, let it boil. Because it's wonderful to see things transform. You know, and may it boil only in the ways that it really needs to boil, because boiling is not the only way into transformation, right? Sometimes it's just like the kind of gentle caress of life is the transformation. It's interesting too, because I've spent a bunch of time in Asia and in India the last 10 years doing practice and study and high adventure Buddhist pilgrimage. I don't just watch cable TV for fun. Throw me on the top of some 13,000 foot Himalayan range, and that's pretty exciting. So when I'm out there in cultures and area, usually the areas of the Himalayas in Nepal or in India tend to be more culturally Buddhist, the higher elevations. So when I'm up there, there are these incredible monasteries that are hundreds and hundreds, sometimes more years old, and culturally it's a really important part to construct and have a part of this, the Buddha Rupa, the statue, right? So this is a big, beautiful one here. Sakyamuni and the wonderful touching the earth gesture. And I know some of you, it's like when things get really hard and you're shaken, just this remembering that we have this very, very long lineage of taking refuge in the earth to bear witness to our sincerity. And that's really what this gesture is about fundamentally. There's a lot more commentary we could give, but just fundamentally. So when I'm up there and I'm, going through these monasteries and practicing and enjoying the Buddhist art, because it's incredible art, there are often images of Maitreya Buddha. Huge. How many stories is this building? 3 or 4? Yeah. Okay. So not quite, but it's not uncommon to have a 2-story image of a statue. And some of the ones that are my favorite are Maitreya, the Buddha of loving kindness. And that statue, 499 times out of 500, is depicted sitting in a chair. So I thought I'd weave this back around. We started with jokes about the chair, we'll end with jokes about the chair. It's interesting. It's an interesting thing. I'm sure some of you are really new to all this, and I'm so glad that you're here, that you found this community. Hope you find a couple people here that you're just like, yeah, I can feel comfortable. And there's a lot to learn, and there's incredible tools and skills that we can cultivate. And then some of you have been doing it longer, so you've heard a lot of teachings, and maybe you've done this community's retreat in the fall a few times, and there's a whole range here. But when we've been doing it longer, we've heard more about the context of these teachings and some of these visions, like the next Buddha might be a community, or the next Buddha might be expression of love. But I always thought to myself, if it's depicted sitting on a chair, I have a little bit more faith that perhaps there's something to this. Like there's some wisdom that's way bigger than our generation here. Because culturally, worldwide now, we just tend to sit more often in chairs. So I just thought, I'm really open to the next Buddha sitting in a chair. I'm really open to the next Buddha being a really full expression of love. I'm really open to not knowing what the next Buddha is at all. But I'm going to keep my heart open for that. I'm not going to wait for the next Buddha. It's like there's a lot of awakeness right here. And I know that because I've practiced with you all. And I really respect your collective practice. So, in case you're really new to all this, you're thinking, wow, she's going on and on about this Buddha. Am I supposed to be worshiping something? Absolutely not. I mean, you're welcome to. Plenty of people who are religiously Buddhist do. But this is more of a spiritual path here. And so it's much more Buddha, taking refuge in Buddha, is an invitation to take refuge into awakeness and the potential for awakeness, awareness and the potential for awareness to clear itself out of all of our reactivity and habit patterns so that the seeing shines forth clear, right? Because mostly we walk around, I was just teaching about this at Spirit Rock, with glasses on. You know, and the glasses are colored with stuff. So we can wear the fear glasses, the irritation glasses, the ecstatic glasses, the grieving glasses, peaceful glasses, whatever. But if we don't know we've got on a pair of glasses and our whole world looks that way, then we don't have a lot of choice. So taking refuge in Buddha is the invitation to start clearing away that which doesn't serve us, that which basically clouds the full wisdom of our view, so that we can see clearly. And of course, it's not just about seeing clearly, then it's about the caring and the response to what we see, because sometimes it's beautiful and sometimes it's horrific. So we care, and then the reactivity is lowered, so all the energy that was caught up in our reactivity is now available to respond. It's wonderful the way that works. So closing quote, Marianne Williamson. In every community, there is work to be done. In every nation, there are wounds to heal. In every heart, there is the power to do it. So those are my reflections this morning. United in sports. It is okay to sit however you sit. You don't need to figure it all out always in order to be okay, is our only strategy. Take the glasses off. Okay. I'm an old educator, so if I'm really doing well as an educator, I say what I'm going to do, and then I do it, and then I say it again. This morning it didn't go down that way. It's all right. So tell me what your thoughts are, what your questions are. I've left a little time for that because it's important here. And then we'll see where it goes. Yeah, please.
Thank you so much. So many things came to mind. But I admit getting a little hung up early on while you were talking and connecting the burning and release concepts, I believe.
Yeah, this quote, when water comes to a boiling point, its state will change.
Burning, letting go through burning feels to me like an involuntary process. Whereas really letting go is a voluntary process. And I was wondering if I was missing something or what.
No, I think you're adding something. I think it's wonderful. Because, I sort of looped back around to it at the end, but I didn't give it the same time and attention that I did the first part of the loop. So now you're doing that, for us, which I totally appreciate. Because it's true, sometimes, there's a traditional metaphor that sometimes either in our practice or just being a human being living a life is like holding a hot coal. And we can hold it, and if we don't know we're holding it, we're kind of burning. And one of the invitations of practice is to know that we're holding something like that and drop the coal. So that thing could be a struggle with the body, it could be a struggle with a habit pattern, a person, a dynamic, anything that's like a hot coal. So that is one traditional metaphor. So when I read this quote, I went, that falls under that. But I agree with you. Like I said, sometimes the doorway in is actually gentleness. Sometimes the doorway into that letting go, that transformation, is holding things in wholeness. And that's a totally different doorway. There's also the process. At this last retreat, I shared a very well-known Ajahn Chah quote. Ajahn Chah is one of the kind of founding late elders of the Thai forest tradition, which is one of my lineages. And he talks about the process of letting go, that it's not one thing. So he says when you let go a little, there'll be a little peace. When you let go a lot, there'll be a lot of peace. When you let go completely, there'll be complete peace. To me, that gives it some more space for us to listen to what's available instead of forcing the letting go. And it's interesting, what I did at the retreat was actually an exercise. We don't have time to do it here, but here's a take-home. As you think of something you're struggling with, and you all you need is Kleenex. And, first you hold on to it for a good 2 minutes as tight as you can, and feel that, metaphorically speaking, it's that clenching is a burning, right? But there's something you're holding on to. You're thinking about that thing, whatever that thing is. And then you relax it so that it doesn't hurt so much, but you don't let go yet. Let go a little piece. And then you drop it, you let go a lot, and you feel your hand and everything. And then you pick it back up, because we're not ready to let go of it completely. And then later you let go of it completely, and then you don't pick it up. So we had Kleenex all over the floor of the meditation hall for 24 hours, because we all did it. And I said, don't pick it up until you're ready. Anyway, I hope that fills out a little bit, a needed piece of fill out. Do you have any more thoughts?
I think the only thing I forgot to say was with the idea of the letting go. When I let go, when I feel myself letting go, when I allow myself to let go of something, it's a gentle process.
Beautiful.
We're gentle.
Yeah.
The burning doesn't imply gentleness to me at all.
No, not at all. Not at all. And we've all got our tendencies. So it's beautiful that you know yours. Because I think that's what's important. I work with people all over the world, and for some people that process is a burning every time. And it's not good or bad, or it's just how it goes for them. And so for me, this is the doorway in. This is the experience that's gentle. And of course, I'm really happy for you to hear that. I wish it could be more gentle for everybody. Thank you very much. Yeah.
I like the water analogy as well, but I was sort of thinking from a Buddhist perspective, perhaps the changing state in water when it cools, because that really sort of reflects the Nibbanic perspective.
There you go. I love it. That's why I bring this stuff in, because then we grow it as a community. So just because you're in the front row, make sure everybody heard this whole thing about when the water boils, the state will change, so we can talk about evaporation, but also when it cools. There's definite connections with awakening or nibbana as an extinguishing of heat of reactivity, right? Cooling. So I love that. See if, my interest is see if what we can remember out of these teachings and then use. So it may be you notice, oh yeah, reactivity's cooling down. Oh, there's more peace here. And that's your takeaway for daily life, right?
I think people, at least my life is about being hot most of the time. So, the work is always about looking at ways to find coolness.
Yeah.
And I see heat as being, the mental activity that we engage in so continuously, and finding ways of not necessarily, suppressing it, but allowing it to really sort of cool to the point where it finds a foundation, comfort,
That's
peace.
powerful.
And that's really about my meditative practice.
Yeah, I can sense the depth in it, because it's like the way it just came out of you was so clear. So I appreciate that. Probably time for one more, if there is one more. Yeah, please.
So I like talking about the Olympics today, because I was thinking about United Sports, I think you said. And I got that how about United in Spirit?
Ooh, there's a nice, like.
And I do see a lot of spirit, especially when they come out in the countries and they're all with each other. And it must be great just to have community with countries that you would not normally speak to or have anything to do with, or you may be aboard with or something. So.
Yeah, I just think about the incredible, the unfathomable amount of hours and caring and effort and, that just goes into that, and to be with a group of people that share that commitment. I definitely tie that in, when I'm in a group of people that have been practicing meditation their whole life. It's just there's something really special about that spirit, that commitment. Same thing. All right, so new translation, united in spirit. The end.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for your reflections.
So next week, our speaker will be Emilio Gonzalez, who often leads us in movement as well. Emilio began his Tai Chi and Qigong practice in 1973 with Grandmaster Kai Yin Kung, and still studies with him today. For over 40 years, he's taught classes in Northern California and conducted workshops for Kaiser, the VA, persons with PTSD and HIV, and at recovery conferences. Let's see, website? No. But anyway, he'll be here next week. He's a perennial favorite of ours, so I hope you can join us. That's May 13, Mother's Day, actually. So our Sangha is supported by Donna, your generosity and giving. So please do be generous. There's a Donna Bowl out there, suggested donation $5 to $10 or whatever you can give would be most helpful. It supports everything that we do here, including speakers in this beautiful hall. Do we have a host?
We do.
Jim.
Yes, my name is Jim. I'm your host for the day. Wonderful to see Heather again.
You too.
I will be going down and shaking you down. Let it flow. There's no point in believing in the stock market. It's not going to last. So let it flow. There are some treats. There's some fruit and some sweets out there. There's hot water for tea. Cups, just leave your cup in the sink and I will wash it. There is a mailing list right out here if you want to get onto our email list. And around 12:30, people who want to gather at the door to go out to lunch together. Is that all?
I think so.
I think it is too. Okay. Thanks.
I brought a couple flyers too that are out there just from the Spirit Rock retreat, so just in case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We have a couple of openings in our bevy of hosts, and so if anybody is considering ways to contribute to the Sangha and participate, it's not an onerous commitment. It's once every 2 months for people who do it on a regular basis, and we could always use some substitute hosts too. So please talk to me afterwards.
Jerry.
Hi, Greg James, who was here earlier, had to leave because he's in the Golden Gate Men's Chorus. And they're going to be performing today at Mission Dolores at 4 o'clock. And the theme of it is Anthem, and it's quite a great chorus. So if you're interested, there's some announcements out on the coffee table.
Mark.
I feel compelled to come up front today. I just, many of you know this, but I'm losing my home in San Francisco. Under the threat of the Ellis Act, I'm being bought out. And so, and I know many of you know that. The best way to support me is to be on the lookout. If anyone has an extra room, if anyone knows of someone who has a building or a cottage in your backyard or anything like that, please keep me in mind. I'm looking from Noe Valley to Novato, and from Richmond to Oakland, so if you're going to draw kind of a rectangle. So I appreciate I know you all best wishes on my account. I really need to find someplace the next 2 months. What frankly I don't need is a lot of words of sympathy. Oh, I feel for you, you poor thing, and all that kind of stuff. So, not
we put that at your feet.
Yeah.
You're looking to rent?
Yes, I am looking to rent. If there's something affordable to buy, I would be interested. But therefore, I'm looking for something to rent. Thank you all, and come see me if you have any questions or comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Hal?
I just want to put in a word of thanks to you, Tom, for instigating the chanting, which I joined this morning, and even though we were a small group, it's very powerful. And it's a wonderful way to lead into sitting. So thank you for doing that, and I hope more people will try it out.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoy it. And in fact, thank you. I was going to mention, if any of you, if anybody has suggestions about things to include, what might make you more likely to participate, other than changing the time, I can't get you up early. I'm all ears. This is an experiment to see how it works and if it serves the Sangha. So, if you have any thoughts at all, please let me know. Are there any other announcements?
What day of the month?
What's that?
First Sunday.
First Sunday of the month. I'm always the facilitator on the first Sunday, so I was like, I'm just going to do this. So do let me know.
When is it the first week of June after the Sangha? We're going to do the meeting. Sangha meeting.
Yeah, that's what
I think that was scheduled for today, but I don't see Michael Altschuler here, who was going to facilitate that discussion on social engagement.
Postponed.
So I guess
to be announced. I do have one other announcement. David Hunt, who sits with us all the time, not here today though, and he led that book group that went on for the past several weeks. So they're starting another Radical Dharma study monthly book group. He sent out an email to our Yahoo group list, so it's on there. If you're not on that, you don't know what this is about, I printed out about 5 copies that are out on the credenza. But basically it'll be a book group that meets monthly. They're going to start, their next book will be The Way of Tenderness by Zenju Earthland Manuel. So they all sound interesting. Yes?
I just want to say that I went for the first time to Queer Dharma at the Zen Center, in the City Center in San Francisco, on Saturday afternoons, and it's very sweet. So you can look it up, and it's a walking meditation and a sitting meditation. There's a Dharma talk.
And there's also one that meets here, a little smaller than ours, on Monday evenings. 5:30, which I went to last week or 2 weeks ago. It was really nice, very, very beautiful.
And also, with the Queer Dharma at noon at the Zen Center, they serve a nice little nice lunch for $10. Which you can do before the
we are blessed.
Reaching a boiling point.
There are so many ways to hold that quote.
So, Heather, would you lead us in a quick dedication hymn?
Thinking about appreciation, let's just take a moment to appreciate everyone who's here and everybody who's part of our community who isn't here today. Then we'll do the dedication call and response, so people who want to join in can. May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May I receive the blessings of my life.
May I receive the blessings of my life.
May those I love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I do not love receive the blessings of my life.
May those I do not love receive the blessings of my life.
May all those in this circle receive the blessings of my life.
May all those in this circle receive the blessings of my life.
May all all beings receive the blessings of my life.
May all beings receive the blessings of my life.
So, tremendous appreciation to us all.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Gay Buddhist Forum. If you would like to hear several new talks per month and be notified of upcoming speakers so you can participate live, please subscribe to this podcast, like us on Facebook, and join our mailing list by visiting gaybuddhist.org.